Today on Legally Yes, David Beckham sues Mark Wahlberg. Megan Thee Stallion is sued for creating a hostile work environment. And Tom Sandoval responds to Raquel's lawsuit. We've got that plus so much more in today's Legally Yes. Everyone, and welcome to Legally Yes. I'm Christina. That's Neama Rahmani, President and CEO of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Hey, Neama, how are you?
Doing great, Christina. How about you?
Doing good, doing good. Lots of big news to get to. Lots of A-list celebrities that we have to talk about this week because going after one another. So David Beckham's DB Ventures company filed a lawsuit against F45 Training, which Mark Wahlberg partially owns. So David claimed in his court documents obtained by TMZ that F45 duped him into signing an endorsement deal. The soccer star's company first filed the complaint in May of 2023, and Beckham had initially agreed to serve as F45's global ambassador in August of 2021 when he moved to Los Angeles. While living in Los Angeles, he and Mark Wahlberg bonded with one another. So per the legal documents, David claimed that he never received the $10 million he was offered in contract negotiations. He was allegedly promised stocks as compensation, which were never delivered after share prices seemingly plummeted. Mark's lawyers, meanwhile, denied the claims, calling the fraudulent conduct accusations baseless in a motion to dismiss. Now, this is according to The Sun. So F45 launched in 2011 with Mark, who owns more than 30% of the company, serving as chief brand officer. F45 founders Adam Gilchrist and Rob Dauch are also named in the lawsuit. So, like I said, pretty big names going after one another. So what do you kind of make of all this?
Big names in a big company. F45 went public as a fitness company. So when you're analyzing this case, Christina, it really comes down to the terms of that agreement. Even though we're talking about A-list celebrities, really just like any other breach of contract case. So what Beckham was promised and whether those promises were delivered is really going to decide who wins this case.
So is David's not really going after Mark. He's going after this company, but Mark just so happens to have his name on it.
Well, Mark's the more than 30% owner. Going after the company is essentially going after Mark. Someone sues West Coast Trial Lawyers, for instance, even though I'm not the sole shareholder, it's going to really hurt my pocketbook if the company has to pay a significant monetary judgment. So It's going to be interesting to see, can Beckham prove that he wasn't paid what he was owed, those millions of dollars? And what about those shares? Were they delivered as promised, or was there a breach related there too?
Right. Well, we heard that, stock kind of plummeted for this company. They were losing a lot of money. If they weren't, would that be something that's in your contract? If like the company can't pay you, what exactly do they do in that instance?
Well, there's two separate situations. The first is the payment of the money, the millions of dollars. It seems like, according to Beckham's allegations, that was owed regardless. And even though this company value has plummeted, and it's now, I believe, worth hundreds of millions of dollars when it was worth more than $1 billion, I think there's probably still enough money to pay Beckham. Yeah. And then as far as the stocks, obviously, that's a risk that anyone takes when they agree to take shares in lieu of money. Obviously, if the stock price increases, they get that benefit. And if it tanks, which appears to have happened here, they get stuck with that loss. So it really is going to depend on what was promised and what was actually delivered to Beckham.
Right. It seems like maybe things were probably nasty behind the scenes before this lawsuit was filed. David and Mark were reportedly friends. So it seems like but like you said, it's probably in the contract. So I don't know why there's so many disagreements, you would think.
It is surprising. I sue a lot of celebrities and I represent a lot of celebrities, and they hate being dragged into litigation. They don't like it. Bad PR. So the fact that it reached this point leads me to believe that negotiations failed and things got nasty between these former friends.
Mm-hmm. How do you foresee this kind of playing out? Do you think David will get the money that he's supposedly deserved or promised?
I think it will ultimately settle. Even though the lawsuit was filed, I can't imagine Beckham versus Wahlberg in a court of law. Obviously, stranger things have happened, but in my experience, when we're just talking about money and this type of business dispute, at some point, the parties will get into some sort of mediation. I expect Wahlberg to make some sort of payment to Beckham to make this go away.
So moving on to the next story, which you know all too well. So Megan Thee Stallion is facing legal trouble for allegedly having sex in front of one of her former employees. The rapper's former cameraman, Emilio Garcia, filed a lawsuit against her, claiming that Megan created a hostile work environment and harassed him. In court documents obtained by Us Weekly, Garcia recalled an alleged incident that took place in Ibiza, Spain, when he was traveling on tour with Megan back in 2022. The filing claims that after a night out, Garcia, Megan, and 3 other women were riding together in an SUV. Suddenly, Megan and one of the other women started having sex right beside Garcia. Garcia could not get out of the car as it was both moving and he was in the middle of nowhere in a foreign country. He was embarrassed, mortified, and offended throughout the whole ordeal. Further claimed that Megan later told him, "Don't ever discuss what you saw," before directing fat-shaming comments at him, such as "fat bitch" and "you don't need to be eating." In addition to the alleged incident, he claimed that he was misclassified as an independent contractor while working for Megan and was therefore effectively denied any of the protections an employee would have under California law. Now, Megan reacted to the allegations via statement from her attorney saying, this is an employment claim for money with no sexual harassment claim filed and with salacious accusations to attempt to embarrass her. We will deal with this in court." So I know that your West Coast Trial Lawyers is representing this client who made this accusation. So tell me all about it, break it down, and what you think of Megan's statement.
Yeah, I was really surprised at Megan's lawyer's statement. And, Megan is represented by a pretty reputable firm, Quinn Emanuel. So I was surprised because the first claim in our lawsuit is a hostile work environment. And I think this is perhaps the misunderstanding. So there's 2 types of sexual harassment. There's quid pro quo, which is this for that. And that's your classic, have sex with me and I'll give you a promotion. Or if you don't have sex with me, you're fired. That's one type of sexual harassment. That's really directed at the victim. But there's a whole nother type, which is creating a hostile work environment. So for instance, if I'm watching pornography at work or if I'm having sex with people in my office, even though it may not be directed towards the other employees, that creates a sexually charged atmosphere, and that's unlawful under the law. So it's really the second type of harassment, the hostile work environment that's alleged here.
How does your client feel now that this has gone public?
He feels good that he's been able to come forward. He has received a lot of support, but he has also received some backlash that I want to address. For instance, 50 Cent posted on social media saying that what's wrong with 2 women having sex? That's great. And, that type of sexism, I think, really creates a double standard. I don't think it's appropriate for a man and woman to have sex in front of another employee or, 2 women to have sex in front of a man. It's not hot or sexy or anything like that. But some of those comments on social media really are inappropriate, and they really sort of perpetuate those stereotypes, like it's sexy for some reason if 2 women have sex, but it's not if a man and woman or 2 men have sex. So hopefully people understand that anyone having sex in front of their employees is a problem, regardless of what their sex is.
It's a pretty big problem. So how do you kind of force it? What's the next steps now that her lawyer has responded? What kind of happens next?
We know that usually the first statement is going to be a denial. So then the question is, does the case go into some sort of mediation or settlement route, or do we start litigating? And obviously we're happy to litigate the case. We don't file a lawsuit expecting it to settle. As you know, we have sued many celebrities and we've talked about them on the show. So if Megan wants to dig in her heels, then what will happen is we'll exchange written discovery. We'll start deposing people. A woman who were there in the car, Megan herself, our client will be deposed, and we'll move the case forward and get ready for trial if necessary.
Right. I mean, well, as we see, some of these things can take a long time. I mean, we talk about the Lizzo case for quite some time too, and it's kind of similar in that regard. So, these things could take months, right?
Months, maybe even years. So it does take a long time. So I always let clients know, and we have people that come into our office every week and they have different claims, and I let them know, if you file a lawsuit, it will be public. It will take a long time potentially to get to trial or settle. Is that something that you're comfortable with? And I have some clients, they're just not ready to move forward, but others are. So we really prepare them for this possibility before we even retain them and file a lawsuit.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll be talking about this, like we said, for a few weeks to come. Thank you, Neama. All right. So, we've been talking about Vanderpump Rules here for quite some time as well. So on April 22nd, Tom Sandoval's lawyer filed correct me if I'm saying this right, incorrectly, a demur, right?
A demur.
Okay. So that means that they are arguing that what is being alleged doesn't have sufficient facts to prove that the specific laws being alleged to be broken were broken. So as we know, Raquel Leviss filed a revenge porn lawsuit against Ariana Madix and Tom Sandoval. Now, he is alleging that by Rachel's own account, the affair was open and public and people actually knew about it back in 2022. So therefore, she did not have the reasonable expectation to privacy. What do you make of this reaction to this? Because she filed this back in February, I believe. So it's been a few months.
Very interesting legal argument. And what's also interesting is that Rachel is represented by the Garagos firm, but Tom Sandoval is also represented by an attorney named Garagos. So I don't know if they're related or not, but a demurrer under the law says the following. Even if all your allegations are true, you can't recover under the law. It's not sufficient for it to be a legal claim. So the argument that Tom is raising is as follows. Really, he's using Rachel's own words against her. Rachel said that everyone knew about it, and this was an affair that, Ariana knew about and production knew about. So what Tom is arguing is that, Rachel, if everyone knew about it, how could this be eavesdropping? How could this be invasion of privacy? This was all public already. So really trying to use her words against her. So we'll see if a judge is going to agree and on that basis grant the demur, in which case the lawsuit would be dismissed.
So, but does he need other people to come forward and kind of, corroborate what he's saying? Does he need his friends and even maybe his ex-girlfriend to come forward and be like, I knew about this? Which, that's the whole narrative of the show, that nobody knew about this affair.
Possibly, yes, but that's not something that could be ruled on in the demur stage. A demur, the judge needs to decide a case solely based on the complaint itself. You can't bring in extrinsic evidence. Now, later down the road, there could be a motion to dismiss, a summary judgment motion. You can attach declarations. You can attach deposition testimony. But that has to be a later type of motion. A demur is just based on the plaintiff's own words herself. So you can't bring in those additional witnesses or evidence.
Filing a demur, is that usually successful? Does that usually work out in somebody's favor?
Sometimes, even if it doesn't get the case dismissed entirely, you can demur to certain claims. The judge might say, you know what, we're going to dismiss certain counts and move forward on the rest. So it doesn't have to be entirely granted. It can be granted in part.
All right. Well, Neama, thank you so much for breaking it all down. Lots of interesting stories this week. So thank you so much.
Yes, a lot going on, Christina. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.